Good morning, everyone. I am Katie Santo Domingo from BEd 2D, and my topic is all about Stanley Fish interpreting the Varya Room. So, first is Stanley Fish, in full, is Stanley Eugene Fish, born April 19, 1938, Providence, Rhode Island, U.S. American literary critic particularly associated with reader response criticism, according to which the meaning of a text is created rather than discovered by the reader, with neo-pragmatism, where critical practice is advanced over theory, and with the interpretive relationships between literature and law. Social reader response theory is Stanley Fish's extension of his earlier work, stating that an individual interpretation of a text is created in an interpretive community of minds consisting of participants who share a specific reading and interpretation strategy. So, let's introduce Stanley Fish, which is there's a lot of um, work, and another examples are reader response is a critical theory that stresses the importance of the role of the reader in constructing the meaning of a work of literature. Stanley Fish is also construct the other role of the reader or other work. Reader response criticism not only allows for, but even interests itself in how these meanings to change from reader to reader and from time to time. Stanley Fish, Is There a Text in This Class? Is a classic account on the nature of linguistic utterance and the scope of possible interpretation. Fish builds his article on an anecdote in which a student approaches a professor on the first day of the semester asking, "Is there a text in this class?" So, for example, we are on our first day of school. So, everyone will ask to the professor if is there a text in this class, or um, we have any tackle or discussion we talk about. Fish received the PEN or Diamondstein Spielvogel Award for the Art of the Essay in 1994, for there's no such thing as free speech, and it's a good thing too. So, Fish also received the award because of his essay. Fish recognize a potential problem here. If interpretive acts are the source of forms and of the intentions we ascribe to an author, what is to prevent an endless relativism? Were there as many interpretations as there are readers? In response to this problem, Fish argues that readers, or at least competent readers, belong to interpretive communities, which are made up of those who share interpretive strategies not for reading in the conventional sense, but for writing text, for constituting their properties and assigning their intentions. These strategies, he points out, exist prior to the act of reading and therefore determine the shape of what is read. Fish is best known for his analysis of interpretive communities, an offshoot of reader response criticism. His work in this field examines how the interpretation of a text is dependent upon a reader's, or rather each reader's own subjective experience in one or more communities, each of which is defined as a community by a distinct epistemology. For Fish, a large part of what renders a reader's subjective experience valuable, That is why it may be considered constrained, as opposed to an uncontrolled and idiosyncratic assertion of the self, comes from a concept native to the field of linguistics called linguistic competence. In fish source, the term is explained as the idea that it is possible to characterize a linguistic system that every speaker shares. In the context of literary criticism, he uses this concept to argue that a reader's approach to a text is not completely subjective, and that an internalized understanding of language shared by the native speakers of that given language makes possible the creation of normative boundaries for one experience with language. So officially, reader response theory got going in the late 1960s when a group of critics including Stanley Fish, Wolfgang Iser, and Norman N. Holland started asking questions about how a reader responds to a literary text actually create that literary text. The book is developmental, not static. Fish at all times reveals the evolutionary aspect of his work, the manner in which he has assumed new positions, altered them, and then moved on. Previously published essays are introduced by headnotes which relate them to the central notion of interpretive communities as it emerged in the final chapters. In the course of refining his theory, Fish includes rather than excludes the thinking of other critics and shows how often they agree with him. Even when he and they may appear to be most dramatically at odds, engaging, lucid, provocative, this book will immediately find its place among the seminal works of modern literary criticism. So Stanley Fish quotes, for him, the purpose of a good education is to show you that there are three sides to a two-sided story. This is what language does, organize the world into manageable and in some sense artificial units that can then be inhabited and manipulated. So according to Fish, education is important to us, to everyone. So we must know how to balance our career, study, and any problem that any problem that has a solution. So that's all. Thank you.